Hello and welcome. My name is Seth Getz and I'm with NuVescor, and we are a mergers and acquisition company. And today we've got with us Barry LaBov, who is the founder and president of LaBov Marketing. And Barry has worked with quite a few different companies, and particularly in the manufacturing area. Among them, number of RV manufacturers, Airstream, semiconductor, semi-truck Freightliner companies. And you were talking about a manufacturer of copper. What was that one again?
Yeah, they're called Copperworks, and
Yes,
they
that's right.
produce
Quite obvious
copper.
name. Yes,
Yeah.
very obvious name, but yes. So, and Barry has also recently made a book or written a book. He's got listed beside him there. It doesn't show up very well on mine, but and it talks about differentiation, the power of differentiating, and winning the hearts, minds, and market shares. And reading through this thing, I was quite struck by just how many good examples he's got of companies that are working through this process and how he took them through the steps of the process of figuring out what is it that makes you unique? What is it that makes you stand out? And talking about that. So I want to talk a little bit about that and go into the area when it comes into, so on the book, Power of Differentiation talks about helping a business stand out in a crowded market. And I think about manufacturing companies, and so many of them have some of this mindset of, you know, my brand doesn't make much difference. It's really just about me doing the right thing and producing a quality product and delivering it on time. How does this affect, like, how do you make sure that these companies understand the power of differentiation for their company?
You know, Seth, what you said is so on target. And your team at NuVescor, which I've been familiar with for 3 or 4 years, you guys are great, and you love the manufacturer, which we do too. So what you said is very interesting because so many of our manufacturing friends and clients are engineers, and
Mm-hmm.
they want things to be done right. And you know why? Because it should be done right. And they also expect that everybody ought to understand it. I mean, come on, do I need to spell it out for you? And I want to share with all my engineering friends, and my father, by the way, was an engineer, so he was always the smartest guy in the room. Seriously, he was. But I used to have to say to him what I'm going to say here. You've got to explain what you're doing, why, and the brilliance behind it. And by the way, there's one more thing our engineering friends can do, and that is celebrate it with your entire team, because guess what? They need to understand the genius behind everything you're doing and how important what they are doing has significance. So there's a lot of great things to unfold here.
So it's both making sure that people understand it and that
Mhm.
people can see it, but also connecting it for them to say, this is why it's so important. This is why it makes a difference for you. So what are some of the steps? I mean, you walk into a company and you've already identified the mindset that they have, the kind of the way that they think. How do you take this and kind of work them through a process of realizing just how important their communications, their branding, their differentiation is?
Great question. We have our own differentiated process. We call it brand re-engineering. And in part because we work with so many brilliant engineers, we thought, wait a minute, we ought to name this something that alludes to engineering. But
Yeah.
it's not re-engineering as in recreating it. No, it's re-engineering. We're looking at what you've engineered and we're going to now maximize it. So we have 5 steps, and one of our steps is totally unique. Nobody does it. If anybody in the audience has ever seen a company do it, please get in touch with me. I'd love to talk with the folks. But here's the 5 steps. My company provides all these steps, but you could try to do it yourself. And if you think you can pull it off, go for it. The first step we do, and this is important, is we call brand assessment. And what a brand assessment is talking and listening to humans about what you're providing. And I'm going to give a secret to all of our manufacturing friends out there in a moment, but you talk with your customers, you talk with your suppliers, sometimes former customers, employees, leadership, et cetera, and you learn what do they think you're doing that's unique? What are you doing that they think you should change? But here's a great question. What is it that we should not change? What should we make sure we do not alter? because many of us being entrepreneurs, and I am one, are willing to change anything. Let's go, I'll change it all. And here's what we have to watch, folks. Many times we are doing a handful of very, very unique, brilliant things. Let's not change those. We can change a bunch of other stuff that we're not that good at, but oh my gosh, those 2 or 3 things that we crush, that we're great at, let's not do that. Let's honor them. So we learn in the first phase from humans, what do they think we're doing that we should not change? What are we doing that is really interesting? And what are we doing that's, not that important? I mean, who cares? We then go to the second stage, which is an incredibly unique stage, the one no one else does. We call it technical immersion. My company goes into the plant, the manufacturing facility. Sometimes it's a technology facility or a service facility, and we scour the place to learn, what are you doing that's unique? We talk with the top engineers, manufacturing executives, leaders, designers, and we go through the facility and we learn, what are the processes, the procedures, the quality control approaches, the metallurgy, the machinery. What are you doing that could be unique? And sometimes it's a friendly argument with them when somebody goes, well, we do this and da-da-da. And we go, does anybody else do this? And Seth, often we'll hear, I don't know if anyone else does it. I really don't know what other people are doing here. We go, okay, this could be unique. And it's like, oh. And so we go through the facility and we will identify about a dozen potential differentiators. And we never want to go beyond 3 to 5 when we really iron them out and say, okay, here are your differentiators. But we look for a possible 12 to choose from. We then go into our recommendation stage where we say, okay, here's what we found. Here's the approach we think you should take. And we have what we call a jam session, which is we work with the client and we collaborate. We go, okay, we think this is unique. And if they don't, we go back and forth and whatever. After we do that, we then go to the 4th stage, which is where most companies start, which is why it's a mistake, which is, hey, let's do some cool execution. It could be a new website or an updated website, a logo, a slogan, whatever, social media. Okay, but now that we get to that 4th stage, we know all these things. We know what makes you unique. We know what your promise should be, and we're able to be very, very specific and laser beam on what the message is. And then the 5th step is very exciting. And again, to our manufacturing folks out there, this is really important. We launch this, but we launch it first to the most important people, the people who work for you, the team that is assembling, servicing, building, designing, manufacturing, cleaning up after all of what we're doing. We let them know, not just, hey, here's what we do, but we celebrate it. And we go, you know what? You're making a difference because this is what we're about. This is what our customers told us. This is why we are loved. And you're doing things every day that mean the world to them. Let's keep this up and spread the word. Then we basically spread the word to the entire world. That's how we do it.
But you starting out with listening and kind of walking around discovering, you're not inventing.
No.
You're not creating something new. You're not telling them, hey guys, you should do this in the marketplace. You're going in there and figuring out. I was just visiting a client and looking at their plant, and they are a manufacturer of the guitar pedals.
Oh, yeah.
The electric guitars. Okay?
I know all about those.
Right.
As a musician, I've had dozens of them.
Yeah. Well, you find this interesting because their old way of doing things and the way that the industry did it is they would manufacture, which is a combination of working with analog and it is digital, but it's also very, very subjective because it's about the sound and getting that whole sound in there and making sure that the device actually covers the whole range of sound and frequencies. So their old school way of doing it is they take one out every once in a while and they hook it up to a guitar and someone would do a guitar solo right in the area there, just making sure, hey, does this sound the way it's supposed to sound? And they would test it out. Very subjective way of doing it. They said this isn't good enough. They created a software to be able to hook into those devices and it would actually run through the entire range of frequencies that was demanded of this thing and listen to it on the other side of it and say, did it actually produce every bit of frequency it was supposed to in every single situation, on every single setting? And so the person just hooks it up, switches the settings, boom, it's off. And I was like, that's an amazing thing that you've got there, that they custom wrote the software to do that. And I was like,
That's brilliant. And that, Seth, is a wonderful example, because normally that genius is going on within that facility. And you know what they say when you ask, well, what is it? They go, well, it's just us being us. Okay, well, what do you call this whole software program? You go, well, it's just ours. Okay,
Yeah.
well, how are you explaining it? Well, we just assume people ought to know it. Okay, are you charging more? No. And the whole point is, you're doing something great. I always tell our clients, look, you're doing the tough stuff. You know, we're like the explorer that discovers, America, or discovers a continent somewhere, way back when. We're not creating it,
Yeah.
but we are discovering it. And we're saying, you know what? It's pretty impressive. It's pretty vast. It's pretty beautiful. It's powerful. Let's name it something. Let's share the story.
Because you're exactly right. Because I met with this person like 4 times before this. We talked about his business, talked about it extensively. This never came up. Never once came up until I went there to the facility. I was like, this is interesting. I was like, do you have a video of this going on? They never thought of making a video. I was like, you just make a video of this happening, this person doing the process. It'd be amazing, just someone.
Yeah. Well, the thing you're saying, Seth, and our audience has to understand this too, that makes your product more valuable. It makes your company, if you're going to sell it, it makes it more valuable because you have this unique product. Otherwise, you're just a company with expenses and machinery and a building and a bunch of people walking through it.
Yeah. By the way, I love your, in the book, chapter 4 is about best kept secrets, Me Too's, and sleeping giants. And going into it, tell us a little bit about the discovery process of discovering some of these things about businesses.
Well, it's funny. I'm glad you brought that up. We have worked with so many companies, and they end up literally calling themselves names. So when we meet them, sometimes they'll say, well, we're a sleeping giant. And a sleeping giant is that formerly unbelievably powerful company that was dominating their market way back when, had all these great products and services, sometimes had a dealer network or distributor network that was great. And you know what? It's kind of gotten groggy over the last 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And they're starting to go, you know what? We need to wake up. A Me Too company, and some clients we've worked with have bragged about being Me Too. And it's funny, they'll say, well, we're a Me Too company. We're in 2nd or 3rd place, and we're like the other guys, and da-da-da. And we're Me Too. And we go, are you doing anything unique? And they'll go, well, we're doing this and this and this and that. Okay, are they doing it? And a lot of times we'll hear, I don't think so. We'll go, okay, you're not a Me Too. You actually have value, and you are not adding any pride in your employees' hearts by saying you're a Me Too. You have something you need to step up and brag about, talk about. And then there's another type, which is what is known as a best kept secret. We work with clients. We worked with an Amish RV company, tremendous company, and they said, hey, we're kind of proud of this. We feel we're a best kept secret. And I said, I'll tell you what, if we're still working with you a year from now and you call yourself a best kept secret, you need to fire my company because it means we have failed. And he said, well, we're humble. We don't like to brag. And I said, it's not bragging if it's the truth. If what you're doing is not done elsewhere, you're not bragging. You're informing. You're helping people. You're informing them and educating them on something you have great passion about. Give them a chance to feel that energy from you.
Yeah. In differentiation and doing this with our company in particular, we interact with people at 2 very, very critical stages of the business. I want to get your input here on differentiation through those particular times because they're a bit different. One is the person who is thinking of, at this point in time, thinking, I need to transition and I need to sell my business. I need to make my business marketable. I need to make my business an attractive, marketable thing. in the next year to maybe 3 years. That's a very significant step because they've been trying to, of course, grow with customers for a long time, but this is different. The second stage, we'll come back to this one, but I bring it up here, and that is after a business has been sold, you have, in many cases, a bit of an identity crisis for both organizations. It's like, okay, what exactly are we now? How do we work together? So talk to those two situations, those two scenarios.
Well, really great identification of two critical moments for differentiation. So in the first one, a person is thinking, okay, I'm going to have to transition. I want to sell the company. And what you really want to do, bluntly, is get the most amount of value or money out of what you're doing. All right. If you don't identify your differentiation at that point, you're basically going to be sold for, and you would know the calculations far better than me, but it's going to be, okay, how much cash flow do we have? How much goodwill do we have coming? What equipment do we have? What's the depreciation on it? Okay, well, here's what's sad.
Financial calculus.
That's right. And what's sad is, what about all the freaking genius you have accumulated over the years? What about all that amazing engineering, manufacturing, design, et cetera, that you are offering customers today that has brought you to this point to have clients and loyal ones for decades? You have to identify those unique differentiators. Now, there could be only 2 or 3 of them, but if nobody else has it, the individuals that are starting to look at your company are going to go, yeah, it's a manufacturing place. It's got this financial information on it. Okay, but you know what? Here's what I love. They've got these 2 unique differentiators that I think we could maximize even further. Let's look into it. And all of a sudden, you have more value. So that's what I would say in a nutshell there. On the opposite end is what happens, and we're pulled in by private equity firms frequently, maybe 40, 50 times a year for this, and that is, hey, we just bought this manufacturing company, and they manufacture components or whatever it is. Will you take a look at what they're doing? We just bought this company at a really great price. We want to know, are there any areas we could really generate far more value out of? And also look at one more thing. What are the areas we should not change prior now to us going in and really operationally tightening this up? So as an example, we might say, look, you have 3 features that are on your trucks that you bought, this company that they're building trucks, let's say. There are 3 features that the customers love. You cannot change them. Don't downsize or dumb them down. You can't. But they have 2 features here that they don't name, they have not capitalized on, that you need to really look into, because these could be huge for their future growth. And I think that's important. One other thing I also want to stress when the company is buying, Seth, like you said, when they're buying, is we also help guide the new team that's coming in to engage the current employees, so that the current employees realize, hey, wait a minute, we are part of the future. We're not part of the past. We're part of the future. And it's real important for that new ownership team to come in, share what they do and do not know, share the value they see in the employees, share what differentiation they think should really be maximized. And the employees will be proud hearing that, because they're going to think, you know what, I wish we would have been doing this. So there are 2 really different times for differentiation, and you nailed both of them.
Talk about differentiation and how you differentiate. And something I'm hearing coming across in so many of the answers you're giving is where you've differentiated. And see if I've got this right here. Give me some feedback on this. I see that you have done something where you focus so heavily on not on the creative, but on listening.
Right.
Getting
Listening.
creative and listening.
Yep.
But then also there's something else on the other side of it that is very unique that I've never heard anyone talk as much as you have about it. Other people have given lip service to it, but that is employees. And that is both listening to employees and engaging with employees. I think you do that that's very unique what you do.
Well, thank you. Listening is critical. So our company holds about 150 jam sessions every year, and that's either internally or with clients where we get together, we collaborate, et cetera. And the first moment that we step into the conference room or the convention center to do it, we explain to everybody what jamming is about. The most important thing in a jam is listening.
Mm-hmm.
It's not talking. It's not pontificating. And so the most important thing we can do is listen. And that's why, while we will use surveys sometimes when we connect with and interview people and say on a scale of 1 to 4, what do you think, blah, 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 we always do open-ended questioning, which is we ask people really interesting questions. Again, like I said earlier, what should this company not change? And then we shut up. And what's fascinating is we allow people to use their words, and we start to find their similarities, or sometimes there are identical type of answers going on, and we're going, uh-oh, we got something going on here. We have discovered magic. So that's very, very important. The thing with employees and connecting that I've shared is this. 25 years ago when we began this journey, we said the same thing. We would talk to CEOs and we say, look, you've got to really engage and celebrate what makes you unique. So when we get through our process, we're going to go do that. And I'll tell you, it was the rare CEO or president who said, yeah, let's do it. It's very rare. Most of them said, no, the employees are being paid. I need them to keep their head down and work. Today, it's completely different. The CEOs and presidents of today that we work with are very, very aware and sensitive of employee intensity, retention, excitement, engagement. And, you think about this, and we share this, because these leaders are very, very positive about sharing the celebration concept. We tell them, look, why in the world should an employee care about high quality, care about being retained and staying there, care about making sure that if a customer comes through the plant that they're treated with respect, if that employee feels that what they're doing is completely unimportant, and that they represent a company or brand that really does nothing of value and certainly nothing unique. I could not ask somebody to care. I mean, I'm giving them a terrible message. How should I expect an employee to care unless I let them know I care about them and they are making a difference because what we're doing is actually valuable.
Yep, that's so good. So yeah, thanks so much, Barry, for talking this stuff through and kind of introducing us. We'll put a link and information about the book and how you can get that off of Amazon on there as well. Just you can check out LaBov.com, which gives some really good information and rundown of all the stuff that they've worked on. Some great videos on there, by the way, as well. So good stuff on that. And yeah, thank you again for talking about this thing and giving some good advice here.
And I'll tell you what, Seth, we love NuVescor. So anybody that goes to my barrylabov.com site, we'll put up a link where they can get a free digital version of the book if they'd like to look at it. And if they want us to ship them a book, we'll ship it for shipping and handling, something like that. So if they're interested, we'll do it. We want to inspire 1 million people. If anybody wants to reach out to me on that site, you can just click on there and set up a 15-minute discussion. And it can be very non-transactional. It could be a conversation. So I'd love to do it.
Really how you and I started talking was just a nice conversation with just two guys kind of talking about business, and then it's kind of developed from there. So yeah.
That's what you and Randy have done, and I've been very, very impressed with your company because you can always tell how a company, their ethics are when they talk to you and the client's not there, and you two are very respectful of the clients, and you are very, very passionate about your focus of helping these companies maximize their exit and also help companies that are going to acquire really have a win-win opportunity. So kudos to you.
Yep. Good. Thank you so much. We'll look forward to talking to you again.
Great.